Could the Dallas Cowboys be the team that makes the trade with the Miami Dolphins for star cornerback Jalen Ramsey? There is a report out there that we need to talk about. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Ramsey still likely not going to be traded until after June 1st, but teams have been being rumored to have interest. We've heard the Los Angeles Rams countless times, the Atlanta Falcons, the Carolina Panthers, the Washington Commanders, and now the Dallas Cowboys. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN was the person who had the report about rumored interest, saying that I have the Dallas Cowboys on my radar because they've pulled off 3 trades this offseason. Now they're more for players that are young and on rookie deals. They need a cornerback, and when I checked with the team about pulling off a 4th, they did not shut me down, so we will see. We're going to continue to talk about Ramsey and a potential fit with the Cowboys here, plus what Miami may get in return. But hit that sub button because we will have you covered on everything Jalen Ramsey. When he gets traded, we'll make a video, absolutely. And we have coverage of OTAs this week as well. Plus, we're trying to dominate our May-long sub battle against the Chiefs report, currently up by 80 subscribers. Good work. Continue to hit that sub button for daily Dolphins content. So you had the Jalen Ramsey report from Jeremy Fowler, and then you had more fuel added to the fire because there was a rumor out there that Jalen Ramsey allegedly bought a house in the Fort Worth area, which is right around where Dallas plays their football games. Now, Landon says cannot confirm if the house is for him or the Cowboys trading for him, blah, 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 blah. I'll say this right now when it comes to Jalen Ramsey buying a house allegedly in the Fort Worth area. I am not reading too much into that. A lot of players live in the Dallas, the Fort Worth area, and it makes a lot of sense for people to live there. I mean, the lifestyle is great. I live here, right? Yeah, Dallas is awesome. They also don't have a lot of state income taxes, so it's a place where a lot of football players like to have houses. So that is something that I do not truly read into as a potential reason is why Dallas wants to acquire Jalen Ramsey. Now, there is also other people a little bit more negative than the view of Ramsey potentially be trading to the Cowboys. Ed Werder, who has been a long-time beat reporter of the Dallas Cowboys, says he does not believe that this has been a topic of discussion within the Cowboys organization. And then someone that we've referred to in the past with the NFL draft, Brian Baradas, said that he is hearing that Jalen Ramsey news was not accurate, according to some folks that he talks to. Don't think he's getting steered the wrong way. He is also someone that is tapped in the local Dallas area and has had some sources within the Cowboys organization. So another report that I'm going to believe. So it seems that maybe that report from Jeremy Fowler could be a little bit off base. We'll continue to talk about it and have my thoughts. But I need to have your predictions down in the comment section. It's today's pinned comment. So you get with the YouTube ad break, scroll down, let it play, and answer today's question. Where will Jalen Ramsey be traded? Where will that team be? Let me know your thoughts down below. Despite the rumors being shot down by Baradas, Ed Werder, and my overall not really consideration that the buying of the house is important by any stretch, I do think the Cowboys could be a team interested in Jalen Ramsey. To me, it makes a lot of sense for Dallas to potentially acquire Jalen Ramsey. Why is that? Well, it's because they need a corner in a bad way. Like, they traded for Kaiir Elam during free agency with the Buffalo Bills. Deron Bland is their CB1. Trevon Diggs has an injury issue that we'll discuss in a little bit. They drafted Savone Revel in the 3rd round out of Eastern Carolina, a player that I would have been intrigued with Miami drafting, but he's also got injury concern that might not have him ready for week 1. This is a team in Dallas that needs to be able to compete this season, just based off how they're paying Dak Prescott, how they're paying CeeDee Lamb, how they're paying some of these defensive players, and how Micah Parsons' payday is coming down the pipeline. They need to try to win now, and Jalen Ramsey could be a short-term good option for them at cornerback to pair up with Deron Bland. And with Trevon Diggs potentially being injured, I could see Dallas trying to swing a trade with Miami that ultimately lands Ramsey in DAL, but sends Trevon Diggs to the 305. And that is something that I have my eyes on, because Diggs is a player that has had a lot of success in his career, 27 years old, but he does have injury history, and I don't think he's going to be ready for week one. Most of the reports and buzz out there surrounding Diggs' injury is that he won't be ready to go for the start of the season, could start on the PUP list or on IR, and Cowboys report host Tom Downey here also believes that he is not going to be ready for week one. But with that being said, I am intrigued with the idea of adding Trevon Diggs because of his talent level and the fact that there isn't a lot on his contract. Like, yeah, if you are a team acquiring him, this is much different from what the Cowboys will have to deal with if they trade Trevon Diggs or keep Trevon Diggs, right? Just like how the Cowboys won't have to really deal with much of Jalen Ramsey's contract when the trade, if it happened, because Miami is dealing with that. So there isn't much of a risk for the 2025 season. And if you look at the dead cap over the next 3 years, because Diggs still has 3 years left on his contract this year, and then running through 28, 29, I believe, like, there isn't a lot of dead cap on his deal. So if you traded for him, that knee injury is even worse than imaginable. You can't envision him being a piece for you, and you don't want him on that cap number. You can either restructure with him if you wanted to do that, or you could just flat out cut him, because the dead cap hits, I believe, are about $10 to $12 million over the final $3 million or 3 years, and that's in total, by the way. So the Diggs contract isn't something that is scaring me away. It's more or less if you think he could still play at a high level, and the injury history is what could potentially scare you away. But if you did get back Trevon Diggs in a trade for Jalen Ramsey, this is what I think one may actually look like. You would still get a draft pick, because there is no doubt about it, Jalen Ramsey, despite being 3 years older than Trevon Diggs, is still a better asset around the NFL right now due to his ability to stay healthy and his still high level of play over the past couple of years. So I think you would get Trevon Diggs and a 6th round pick in return for Ramsey, and then Dallas lands one of their veteran corners they may be targeting. This is an interesting trade idea, and we'll talk about Diggs and his play on the field here in a second. But make sure you get and take advantage of this Dolphins hoodie, which is on sale right now, $40 off. Absolute steal. It's on clearance at chatsports.com/Dolphins hoodie. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Not often do you see this high quality of a hoodie. I mean, look at this thing. The palm trees, the Go Fins, $40 off. Size is still in stock from small to 2X, so get yours today. One more time, chatsports.com/Dolphins hoodie. All right, as we talk about Trevon Diggs more here, I do think it's important to actually reference what that injury that he's recovering from is. If you go back to 2023, he basically missed that entire season after tearing his ACL in the first month of the year. He returns for 2024 and then injures that same knee in December of this past month, which is the reason why he's likely not going to be available for week one. It's because that injury that happened to his knee once again was really late in the year. He was still able to put together 11 games played, so you did see what he looked like on the football field post ACL injury, number one. But prior to that injury, he was one of the best corners in all football. Obviously flashed onto the scene when he had that unbelievable year, taking the ball away, forcing turnovers in 2021, and was one of the better coverage corners in the NFL. And I believe that guy might still be in there. Like, if you look back at his 2024 season, which is obviously coming off of a torn ACL before he re-injured that same knee, he played really well in the 680 snaps. Completion percentage when targeted of 64.7, had a couple interceptions, a QB rating when targeted of 89.3. Like, you look at these numbers, and it's not a player that you would think is, like, cooked coming off of a toward ACL. No, he still looks solid. Was he still as good and dominant as he was in his early parts of his career, 21, 22? Obviously not, as he continues to get older in age and the knee injury. But it's still a player that I would have confidence in being a starting boundary corner, a CB1 or a CB2, probably more on that CB2 range. He's also a player that has played in the nickel in the past, so is a versatile player in your secondary, which is very, very important to the Miami Dolphins, as Anthony Weaver runs so many different schemes, so many different looks, sends corner blitzes, zone coverage, man coverage. So his ability to play different roles on your defense could come in handy quite a bit if you ultimately added him to your roster in return for Jalen Ramsey. So what say you? Let me know your thoughts. Would you be open to getting Trevon Diggs returned for Jalen Ramsey if Miami made a trade with the Dallas Cowboys? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. To wrap up the show here, I think I would. I would still be in on getting Diggs back because, one, as I mentioned, that contract does not scare me. The dead cap over the next 3 seasons is not egregious to the point where it would scare me enough away from taking in that contract. And when you think of how the Dolphins will have to replace Jalen Ramsey when a trade inevitably happens, you look to the free agency market and the Stephon Gilmores, the Rasul Douglases, the Asante Samuel Juniors, those type of worlds. You can look into the trade market of a potential Jalen Watson with the Chiefs, with Greg Newsome from the Browns. Like, if you just include the free agent options that we just named, I think Trevon Diggs is the best one out of all 3 of them. And I don't think there's any debate on that. If Trevon Diggs was a free agent, even with his injury concern and history, I think he would be the most sought-after guy. So if you could get him in return, ease him into the 2025 season, maybe he misses the first 5-6 games of the year, I'm not concerned about that because you still go out and sign one of those corners we mentioned to hold it down alongside Cam Smith, Storm Duck, and Kader Kohu. And then when Diggs ultimately returns halfway through the year, you now have a pretty well-rounded cornerback room that could be a solid one when you get into that middle part of the season where you play the Bills, Ravens, Commanders in back-to-back-to-back weeks. You have an earlier easy schedule, which could allow you to get away with making this deal and easing Trevon Diggs back from injury and taking a risk with a lower, let's just say, not as good as a cornerback room. That will do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed as we continue to break down Miami Dolphins football every single day. OTA start this week. We'll have you covered. And if you are watching this on Tuesday morning, we are going live on Tuesday afternoon to discuss more around the Dolphins as well as break down some OTAs. So subscribe and don't miss a beat of Dolphins coverage.